Thank you, Janja, and thank you for organizing this very interesting workshop. And I will talk about seawater. So since our planet, and Valentina will correct me if I'm wrong, is mostly covered by salt water, it should be, we should talk something also about seawater. So in this presentation, I'm going to focus on medical discourses, which have throughout history recommended different cures for diseases that have tormented humans. And one of the therapy treatment is associated to water, like especially balneotherapy, the method of treating diseases by bathing, which is a traditional medical technique, usually but mostly practice related to spring water, so to sweet water. However, in this presentation, the main attention is dedicated to the salt water, and which has also been part of medical treatments throughout human history. So what was the attitude towards seawater? We will have, I will just give you a brief overview through time. So important therapeutic effects have been attributed actually to the use of sea bathing, which has been recorded already during the ancient Egypt. In fact, its therapeutic effects were recognized and significantly valued. A narration talks about Euripides, the tragedian of ancient Athens, which during his journey to Egypt was supposedly seized with a very severe disease, for which the Egyptian physicians found a remedy with marine baths, specifically with cold sea bath. And apparently he made great use of sea baths, since he's also supposed to be the author of the famous words, lava il mar tutti quanti mali umani, which would be translated in English, the sea washes away all the ills of men. But the Egyptians were actually not the only one who took good advantage of seawater. Both the ancient Greeks and also the Romans ascribed great importance to sea bathing. On one side, we have for health purposes, but on the other side, also for more like lucrative use, or more for related to relaxation and fun, let's say. And according also to the Roman historian Gaius Suetonius Tranquillus, even the Emperor Neron, which is known for other things, he would have seen water brought to his thermal bath, so seawater into the thermal bath. So it is also claimed that during summer months, the ancient Greeks used to swim in the Aegean and Ionian Sea. Besides, also sunbath or just relaxation was in fashion. As known, people have always learned, or we already heard today, how to benefit from the use of the surrounding environment or of the natural assets. And according to contemporary Greek custom and tradition, swimming came naturally, which was like taught from generation to generation, so from parents to children. And apparently even the famous philosopher Plato, he considered the man who did not know how to swim the same as an uneducated man. And according to Aristotle, another famous philosopher, he seemed to believe that swimming in the sea is better for the health than swimming in lakes and rivers. And he was also more in favor of cold rather than warm water, which is something we cannot think about today. Well, some do. So as we can see on the slide, swimming and in seawater was also depicted in paintings, but especially during the, let's say, golden years of the Roman Empire, the so-called Pax Romana period, the fashion of the use of sea bathing during the period of Ozio was very popular among the upper class. A type of vacationing was practiced in the seaside coasts, where the main attention was directed, let's say, to relax and rest, hedonism, really great enjoyment also of food and the drinks, and also partly to like more religious motives and the motives of reharmonization of the body, and also a way to escape from Rome, so from the big city. And as known as medicine often acts as a forerunner of new trends and healing practices, it is not surprising that it has played a key role also in the, we can say, rediscovery or reinvention of the healing effects of sea air and water. This is why in this presentation I'm going to focus on the reinvented or rediscovered therapeutic effects of salty water in the period of development of seaside health tourism. So we'll do a kind of there will be a time lapse in my presentation. So the doctors, after promoting the healing benefits of thermal bath, they also encouraged the widespread of seawater for medical purposes at the beginning. So, but slowly from the primarily health-oriented motives of the establishment of the sea spas, which also were actually, let's say, working as similarly as to the thermal spas, over time they acquired the character of places of pleasant stay, relaxation, and developed into tourist destinations. But the question is, so how did and when did this happen? As known, until the end of the 18th century, seawater and air did not receive or did not attract any particular interest for medical or even tourist purposes. It was widely believed that the sea had no healing benefits and was even considered harmful to the internal organs. However, in the late 18th century, in the first half of the 19th century, the healing properties of water and sea air regained recognition, promoted by, as mentioned, doctors, which led to the creation of the first seaside colonies. And here I will just mention and talk briefly about Dr. Richard Russell, which is one of the most important initiators of sea bath. He was an English doctor. He graduated medicine in 1724 with a thesis on epilepsy in children, but he had from early years taken an interest in the properties of seawater and in sea bathing and their medical use. He explained that this was not a new concept, and that is also seen by his writings. But he said that this type of medical cure has started to attract attention in England and as a medical cure. He's very famous for his book he wrote in 1750, then translated in 1753 by himself because he didn't like the translation from Latin, so he translated it in English and then published it in 53 by the title A Dissertation Concerning the Use of Seawater in Diseases of the Glands. And in this book, he recorded his experience over 25 years with the use of seawater, and particularly in case of glandular disease. And he became very famous with these books and the methods of treatment of various diseases with seawater. And in the preface, as we can see here on the slide of the book, he wrote, I quote, "I offer in the following sheets some cases which were cured by seawater, wherein I have endeavored to explain and illustrate as far as I'm able to, by what ways it produces its good effects in subduing diseases of the glands. But I have left whatever else may lead to a more accurate knowledge of it, and in so a great medicine, I should think the field likely to be very extensive. So to the ingenious experiments of those who come after me." So he was kind of aware that his research is just part of the research which will be implemented also by other doctors in the future. And he also made it clear that treatment with seawater should not be used for all diseases, which was partly the case later. That was really an exaggeration, like seawater will cure everything, and even some doctors recommended to drink it. But he said that, so it's not recommended to treat all diseases, and as he said, nor indeed for all stages of the same disease, but the method should be used with caution, and only under the direction of a physician well versed in its use. And according to Richard Russell, he refers to others who have used this treatment and where he shows an extensive knowledge of medicine as practiced by the ancients, and particularly the use of seawater. So he here makes it very clear that while the knowledge and experience of the ancients should be revered, so he said, it's not that I'm inventing something new, but this practice, this was already known in ancient times. But he also said that this does not mean that they were always right. So in the treatment of diseases with seawater, and that the physician should make his own judgments, observation, and experiments, not arriving too hastily at conclusions. So Richard Russell was very clear about his position and also about the use of the cautious also use of seawater in medical treatment. However, he's also known as the father of Brighton, and his book is also considered the one which led to general interest and acceptance of sea bathing. We will soon come to Brighton, since we have just mentioned it, and we will now talk about these different stages of development of seaside resorts, as well as healing or for tourism purposes. So, as mentioned, until the second half of the 18th century, no interest for healing or tourism purposes was dedicated to the sea. While on the other side, it's not that from, I don't know, the end of period of Western Roman Empire until the 18th century, nobody used or know how to swim in the sea. So it was continuously practiced after this period, but mostly related to the lower class. So it was, since it was a kind of considered immoral for the upper class. This is also known, for example, from diaries of grand tourists who visited, for example, Rome and Naples, and they were commenting upon these barbaric people from the south who used to half naked swim in the sea, and this was completely something unimaginable for them. So, but as we have given the example of Dr. Russell, the role of doctors here was crucial. Medical treatises recalled now the positive preventive and curative effects of air and at first cold seawater, and rediscovered ancient discourses on their healing properties. What is also important is that gradually former prejudices and fears were overcome. So doctors were the one who actually recognized the therapeutic and healing effects for the body and the mind. And they also, as I say, sometimes with a bit of exaggeration, they, in some period, as I said, they believed that, the sea cures everything. And also not just, as I say, for body, so for physical, but also psychological diseases, as for sadness, anxiety, depression, and so on. But where did these first facilities or sanatories were opened? The first one were localities on the northern European beaches. First one, the already mentioned Brighton, where Dr. Russell, of course, he was the one who opened the first sanatory there. And also localities, especially on the Northern Sea and Baltic Sea. We will also explain why. And also during this period, as you can see, I don't know how much you can see the images, but sunbathing was not given any medical meaning by that time, and was again considered a sign of uncultivation, in contrast to the white pale complexion of the upper class. And in order to protect the pale skin complexion, the first vacationers used sunshades, umbrellas to protect themselves from the sun during their walks on the beach, because the doctors they made very clear recommendation of how to bathe or swim if people knew how to swim, and also for walking, to enjoy the sea air, but not the sun. And it was only when the sun was also given healing effects that holidaymakers, the vacationers, started to spend time on the beach, which is something that it's very common for us. But it was not until the beginning of the 20th century that the dark complexion became a symbol of prosperity and holidays. And especially not until the 1950s that the Mediterranean was finally consolidated as a popular tourist destination, as we know, of mass tourism. So, as mentioned, the first elite destinations have emerged in England in the second half of the 18th century. And in fact, it was interesting how this passage happened from thermal to sea health resorts. It occurred in Scarborough, and I don't know how to pronounce this resort. It was a thermal resort where by the sea, where in a spring thermal water, also the seawater was flowing into, and the doctors have recognized a greater therapeutic role of that spring water. So doctors, as mentioned, were very important initiators. However, it was also other, let's say, factors that influenced the development of seaside health resorts. Especially, for example, the aristocracy, which first encouraged the development of bathing tourism and the sea and the fashion trends. I usually call them the influencers for students when I talk to students, because otherwise they don't, they understand the language of influencers maybe more. And the success, however, of this seaside resort destination also depends, it was not enough that the doctor said or wrote a book or a dissertation about how good it is to bathe in sea, but also the new trends and also, of course, investments in infrastructure, where, of course, tourism is also related to. So another important factor was the ability of the resort to fill the leisure time of vacationers. So because, as we will see, people did not stay on the beach the whole day, so they needed something else also to do. So entertainments, events, concerts, also sports activities were organized and so on. And in this process, the localities with mainly curative character slowly lost this first purpose and became fashionable tourist destination where fun and relax were in forefront. So before I still have... yeah, Okay. Then, right. I will try to. You were all very, very on time, so which is not my characteristic, but I will try to. So just before I conclude, I wanted to just briefly present the main phases of the sea bathing development of the tourism also by the sea. So, and I kind of, just to be more clear, maybe I put three main phases. Which is first is like I call them like that. So northern cold sea in summer. Then we have the cold sea, but on the south in winter. And then finally we have the warm southern sea in summer. So these are like the three phases. The first one, so is the one that I have already mentioned. So bathing on the cold sea, localities like on the northern sea, on the Baltic Sea, like Germany, also like Normandy coast, also the Spanish coast, partly on the north. However, maybe except for Brighton, this in Germany, for example, these localities mainly retained like local regional dimension. Then we have the second, let's say, phase, which are destinations on the south. So we go now towards the south, towards the Mediterranean, like the French Coast d'Azur, I don't know how to pronounce it, Riviera Ligure in Italy, which have become known as destinations for the mild climate for lit tourists in winter months. And then finally we have the win, I like to make fun of it, of the Mediterranean destinations. And as already said, so the doctors were the initiators, and of course they also, let's say, followed a specific agenda. So when they opened a sanatory, specific locality by the sea, of course they wanted to attract visitors or clients, if we may call them. So some treaties were really a bit very promotionally, the narrative was very promotional, like this, for example, this from 1846, written by a doctor that said, without any exaggeration and attribution of miraculous role to swimming in the sea, I can affirm without any doubt that many diseases, especially chronic, which treatment so far has not been successful with other cures, with this therapy will have better results. So come to the sea, you will be cured, something like that. But first, so we take just a brief look at these three main steps. So we have the cold, so people swimming, and we also have to know that if for the Greeks was maybe like this tradition was a bit of forgotten, so not everybody knew how to swim. So we can see this, it's not like swimming, but it's more like for like sea bathing. So you can see people were entering in these bathing machines, usually to change the dress, and they were carried by carriers or by horses. This is typical for the northern coasts. And, they were just swimming for a few minutes, moved in the cold sea or among the waves. And after the swim, this 3-5 minute swim, they just change the dress and, use something to cover from the sun. Also, the beach was strongly divided, like more conservative way, which we are not maybe used that much today anymore. And also the code. So the bathing suits were more, as we can see them here, were much more conservative than we know them today, especially for women. With men, it was a bit less conservative, especially when they were in their part of the beach, so only for men. But if they were with women, like for families, they had to be more dressed. It was very important, so that the clothes were very large, long, so in order to cover as much as possible, and to be modest and to observe special characteristics, and especially so no exposures of the body. The other part, which is the cold sea in the south in the winter, as they call it, so it's the same model. It's like we could say today, copy paste. But it's instead of on the north, it's on the south. So it's a kind of alternative type of not winter, but winter seaside localities. And the season was from October to May. So we are already getting towards the south, but in this winter season, so there is now it's now competition with, for example, the northern localities, and it's a kind of something that was already experienced on the north, so it's a very successful model. And then finally, and this I will soon conclude. Towards the end, but especially the beginning of the 20th century, this has changed, and slowly, but mostly after the end of World War II, also with the development of mass tourism, the Mediterranean has become one of the most desired destination of seaside tourism. And so to summarize, I wanted just to emphasize that first, the development of medical profession, new medical discoveries recognized the beneficial properties of the sea and the sea air, and prompted the development of seaside spa resorts. So doctors encouraged the building of the bathing facilities and the introduction of the treaties with seawater, sea air, walking, and so on. But it took some time and several phases. So firstly, the healing effects were recognized to cold water and only slowly to warm water. And also there were specific recommendations and moral norms to be followed, so rules how to behave on the beach and what kind of clothes to wear. Gradually, rituals on the beach and the sea began to change. Attitudes towards the beach and the sun, towards the length of bathing and bathing clothes changed. At the beginning of the 20th century, the sun was finally attributed, today not anymore, of course, positive therapeutic effects, and bathing in the warm sea became increasingly popular. And the beach especially has become a place of rest, fun, and leisure, which is mostly still today. I'm sorry for being too long, and thank you for your attention.